Hey folks, it's Steve Wilmes, and I'm here to talk about a very special question that we got, and it's an important one. How do we deal with stranded students during active shooter events? And it's important, and it's kind of a tough one. So I've invited Matt Kita here with me today to talk a little bit about it. And Matt, go ahead, introduce yourself, man.
Sure thing. I'm Matt Kita. I am a risk manager here with Steve. And active shooter, look, we all have that moment, right, when we see the news break about a shooting, especially at a school. And we can imagine the terror and the fear that we all have for our loved ones who might be on a school campus. And I can't imagine a situation, Steve, where I would feel less under control of the situation than if I was a student and I wasn't even in a classroom. I was actually out and about. I was on the school field. I was in a bathroom when the alarm went out. It's so critical that we speak with our students and make sure that they understand what their role is when this happens. So one part of that is obviously you need to let them know about the basics of, run, hide, fight.
Yeah, run, hide, fight. Yeah. Well, look, we got a stranded student, right? That's really the question. How do we deal with the stranded student? And the answer here is not easy. It's not like you can just always do X or you can always do Y. And a lot of times we have those heroes, we have those individuals that want to jump out there and go get the student, but that brings on a lot more risk. And unfortunately, and again, I'm looking at this from the standpoint of someone that does a lot of training on this for schools, someone that manages risk, and it's a horrible calculation to have to make. I don't ever want to face somebody's parent and have to tell them this calculation, right? I want everybody to survive.
Right.
I don't want anyone to be injured ever. But when I look at it, do I want to take the number of one person injured or 20 people injured? And that's the question that we have to ask, unfortunately. And it's a brutal one, right?
Yeah.
It's brutal. I wouldn't want you to have to make that call.
I wouldn't want anybody, ideally nobody would ever have to make that, but we're not in a world now where we have that luxury.
Yeah, we definitely have to make these calculations. So how do we deal with the student that's stranded? Well, Matt was talking about training, but we look at those outcomes, right? The run, hide, fight. What does that really mean? These are outcomes. And again, like those outcomes are there as the ability when a trigger happens, what do I do? Right? So this is where a lot of times we miss things. And I would say, let's cover this topic of outcomes and triggers in an entirely different video because it's meaty, right? There's a lot to it.
Oh yeah.
And so I want to look at just the run or the hide portion of this. And that is really hiding, right? If you're stranded, if the student went to the bathroom and the active shooter comes onto campus, okay, well, do they run? Do they hide? Let's tackle the first one, hide. Where are you? Okay, first you have to get to a location that is worthy of hiding.
Mm-hmm.
So are you in the bathroom? Okay, if you're in the bathroom, what can you do, Matt?
Well, one common thing, I know it's all Hollywoodized and everything like that. We've seen it all the time in horror movies and everything like that, but get in a stall, stand on the toilet, close the toilet lid, stand on the toilet, crouch down so that you can't be seen above the edge of the stall, and basically hide and make no noise, as much little noise as possible. If nobody is in there in the room with you and you happen to have a cell phone, I would put your cell phone on vibrate so you don't make any noise.
No, not even on vibrate. Complete silence.
Complete silence. Oh yeah. Yeah, complete silence. And put that, just make it so that there's no way that if the shooter happens to be passing by that bathroom, they might get an indication that someone is in there. Now, in general, Steve, shooters aren't looking for individual.
Yeah,
targets.
they're not
Yeah.
going into a bathroom to look for one person.
Right.
Generally speaking. Now, if I hear you walking by, do I then go in there? Well, that may be part of that person's plan. I don't know. But the bottom line is, as Matt indicated, get in the bathroom, lock that bathroom door if you can, jam it shut, do what you can, get in the stall, lock the stall, and then get on the top of the toilet. And, you know, if you have your book bag, then cover up as much as possible and know that you're safe. Don't want you operating any cell phones as a student. You know, I know that they do, but the point being is you got to be quiet. And things happen when you're operating cell phones, right? I'm nervous and I'm doing this and I drop it and ding, ding, ding. And then, you know, you got bigger problems. And it could just be that point when that person's walking by. It could echo. I mean, a lot of our schools are situated in rows and they, you know, things bounce around. Right. And you and I know just from going camping when we're out, sometimes you can hear things from a very far distance at night. Yeah. You know, so when the campus goes completely silent, then every noise, and remember, one of the things that we don't often talk about here is the auditory exclusion, the tunnel vision, these types of things. In those situations, that shooter is looking and listening for those. They're in a heightened state of awareness. So any noise is going to be ultra loud to them, right? Because they're dialed in on that. And so those things, those little tick, 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 beep, beep, bing, ding, ding, whatever it may be, are all going to be heightened, right? So we have to be very mindful of that. The next kind of component to it, Matt, is really what does the staff member do, right?
Right.
So the student's going to get to a location. They need to hide. They need to stay put. They need to hold fast. They need to improve their position. If they know for sure, maybe I'm on the side of the building and I hear the person walking that way. Maybe I go to the next area. That's the second part of the outcome, the run, right? Run, improve your position, get to a better hiding spot. And that means that, back to your example of training your staff, or training your students, where on campus are great hiding spaces, right? But now knowing that a lot of students are active shooters, you're also giving that away. But, you know, those are a lot of times shooters are not going to go out into the open exposed. Right. So when we were looking at one of these campuses, a great setup is on the front of the campus for assembly because it's exposed widely, and that's where law enforcement is typically going to set up. Right. So the shooter's not going to walk right into law enforcement if it's a weird state of mind, but if they're thinking to preserve their own life. Right. So should a staff member run out and grab them? With a stranded student?
Absolutely not. I mean, look, you mentioned the horrible calculus, the calculation that you have to go on. If you're a teacher, you're in a class and you have, let's say, 29 or 30 students who you are in charge of, and you're making them safe, but you know that you have a student who went to the bathroom. That, a lot of times, you're going to have that impulse. I've got to run out and get them and bring them back, which is great. It's noble. But the problem is that impulse, that could get you killed. That could get a student currently, one of your 29, that could put them in danger. And who knows? You don't know where that shooter is. You don't know how close they are. You can't really make the decision of going to save one when you have 29 others under your care. So This is why I talked about training ahead of time, making sure that the students know how to handle it, because we can't guarantee. I mean, it's not active shooter situations happen at any time. They happen at recess, they happen at lunch, they happen before school, they happen just after school as everybody's leaving, they happen during classes. Students could be anywhere. They could be on the field, they could be in the lunchroom, they could be in the classroom, they could be in the principal's office, whatever. The point is, you can't plan for every eventuality. So the way to protect yourself in that is to make sure that your students know what they need to do if they find themselves out alone without an adult to supervise them in a situation like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they should not open the door and run out there. Again, you have, back to your example, you got 15, 20, 30 students in your classroom. Does that shooter then hear that door open and get an idea of where the people are? Does the door get locked? That's the next question. Like, they're all supposed to be in California now. If you've done all your updates, you're right, and you've done all your maintenance, then all the doors should have internal locking mechanisms. Great. You leave, then you are now stranded. Don't come back to that classroom, right? So you have to then get to that student, hope that they're there, avoid any signs. Remember, we talked about tunnel vision and all this. Any movement is going to attract the eyes. That's the natural response from the human body. It attracts the eyes, and now if you're running and that shooter sees someone running, well, guess what? They're probably going to go that direction. Now you got somebody on your tail. And now you have to get the stranded student and determine where you're going to go. So again, if you're not trained and you don't know where those spaces are, right, then we got big problems. We have to really understand where we're going. So now you got to pick that child up and go.
Right.
Right. But a lot of times we go, okay, that student's there and they're coming towards my classroom. Do I open the door and let them in? And that's another question that's really tough to answer.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That in a situation like that, that's one of those where you never know if the shooter's going to turn right around the corner right at that moment when you open the door, And just even alerting them to your presence could be an issue. Like maybe the shooter walked along and you properly locked the door, and they checked and they didn't see anything. You were good. You didn't move. Your students didn't move. They didn't give off any signals, and the shooter moved on. But then for whatever reason happened to come back, and it happened right at that moment when you open the door. Now they know somebody's in there. Now they're making an effort to get inside the classroom.
Which isn't hard.
Yeah.
Shoot the window, whatever you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, shoot the lock. It's not hard.
Yeah.
It's not hard. This brings up a lot of great topics for me, man, because I'm like, I'm going to do a tip on textbooks. I'm going to do a tip on this, right? There's like so many great things that we can do to help prevent this type of stuff. But do you open the door when the student's running for you? Now, we always teach and we always train that you never, ever, ever unlock the door for anyone for any reason. At some point, you got to get the all clear. You got to get the police officer there. And it brings to mind a news interview I heard today with a lady out of Texas, I think it was. She was, the media was really hyped up that she was teaching her 5-year-old about active shooters and bulletproof vests and all this. And I was listening to some of the training and the techniques, and I won't call out the particular program, but the concept there. So let me finish up this point and remind me to come back to this, Matt.
Okay.
If you open the door, well, you don't know if that stranded student was captured by the shooter and now is being put up to begging for help, right? So that's one of the things that we do when we test. Help, I'm injured, let me in, help. And we don't want to hear anything. We don't want you to open the door. We don't want to see your face, nothing, right? And we have to go along that same line. I remember being in a very prominent city here in Southern California, in the Bay Area, in Southern California, SoCal Bay. right? And there was a big riot, and the board member asked me to go get his student out of the classroom, right? And it's like, are you kidding me? You know, we got 300 gang members running around here. We got a big fight. We got 7 police departments here. Are you kidding me? You want me to open up a door? Like, it totally violates the training. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm going to urge you again to go back to the training. As that shooter call comes over the radios, over the communication systems, yeah, your classes are running. Once you close the doors and lock them, that's it. And then the students need to know what to do. And again, it's a really hard, difficult position. But that being said, we have to make those calculations. And once you open that door, now we have the noise again. We have the movement. We have all those types of things. So it's best for students to run to locations that they know are open, where they can get into, where they can hide, and those types of things. And a perfect example of that, when we were doing one of our active shooters, all the kids were on the field, and boom, they were hidden in the bushes and trees and all this kind of stuff. And it was like super difficult to see them. Yep. And again, from a distance, if you're not moving, if you're being quiet, that shooter's probably not looking there, right? And again, I wouldn't have stopped there. I would have kept going. Run into the neighborhoods and get out of it. So now let me come back to this interview that I heard. Yeah. And so here it is, right? The mom got the child the bulletproof backpack and was training the 5-year-old on what to do for the first day of school and this and that. So here we have protocols, as you indicated up front. The alarm sounds, the thing comes over, immediately get into the hide position, wherever that is. I don't want to divulge too much here, right, because I don't want to give too many tips away to someone with ill intent. However, get to your position, okay? And the mom is now instructing the student to say, no, wait, I got to get my backpack because my backpack is bulletproof. And that's great, but if that shooter is walking by your classroom and you're standing up and you're walking across the classroom or to get your backpack, because a lot of times they're on hooks, right? And because we don't want trip hazards and this and that and the desk, like we've gone crazy. We got these small little desks. There's no place to put your backpack under, all this kind of stuff. Like there's a reason that we had some of this in the first place. Leave it, right? Right. So bulletproof backpack. Now I jump up, I go to get my backpack, and then I come back to my position. In the meantime, the shooter sees this and now knows that everybody's in there. Yep. Right. And so now, because you'll be protected, but the rest of the kids won't, everybody, like you'll survive, but maybe not everybody. Right. And so it becomes a real judgment call. And the problem with these active shooter events is that they are like a violation of every other emergency protocol that we have. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So don't lock the doors because of fires. Okay, we have to lock the doors. Don't go outside. Don't make noise. Don't do head counts. Don't move. Don't do this. How do we get in? How do we get out? Do we save this person? Do we not? It's a real dynamic, fluid issue, and it's a real problem. So you want to sum up what you should do for a stranded student?
Oh, yeah. Well, first thing, again, we focused on this. I'll start with what I opened with is ahead of time, making sure that your students are aware of run, hide, fight, and what their role is if they happen to be outside of a classroom or outside of adult supervision, how they can handle that situation. You really need to nail that down for them so that they understand. That way, you don't have to face the choice of, should I open the door and run out and get them, or should I stay? Which brings me to the next point. Don't run out. When the door is locked, when you have that door on lockdown and you have everybody up against a wall and out of sight and making no noise, that door is locked and it stays locked. You do not open that up unless you hear from law enforcement who says it's all clear for you to go out. Okay. Before that, you never do that. Okay.
And even that, we have to be mindful of. It needs to really come over like a message verified from principal,
Right.
administration, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Right.
Right. Exactly. And then when it comes down to the stranded student themselves, just making sure that they understand what it means to hide, what it means to run, and when to make those decisions. We use the bathroom example. That's a great example and a common, I would say, a common spot that you'll see students possibly end up in. One other example I've thought of is if you happen to be in the field, Steve mentioned going to one shooter drill where we had students hiding in the bushes. If you're able to escape out into the neighborhood and you can see that the shooter is nowhere near you, you're not in immediate danger out in the open field, but you can escape the campus, choose to run. Get yourself out of the situation.
Yeah, knock on the neighbors' doors, all that kind of stuff. It's very important. And again, if you're this teaching staff with the students, then you have that responsibility to make sure everybody's safe out there. So it's a challenge, though, man.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Challenge.
There are no easy answers in this situation.
There's only one right answer, and that's survive.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, if you're watching this on our website, then of course check out our YouTube channel. We've been uploading a lot of the videos there. Some of these are videos where we are just taking components of our training and putting it out there so you can get little snippets. And otherwise, we have a bunch of questions and answers that we're sending out there. We have our blog. So check all that out, and we'll see you next time.